All right. It is September 17th, 2012. I'm at the G Library at Texas A&M University Commerce doing an oral history interview with Glenda McKissic.
Baylor.
Baylor, our first African-American homecoming queen. So I'd like to, I kind of start at the beginning. Can you tell me where you were born and about when and where you spent the early part of your life?
I was born in Mineola, Texas,
Okay.
and was raised there through college. I was at Mineola, attended McFarland High School, which was the all-black school, and from there matriculated to Mineola High School, integrating the school in 1966, I think it was. Graduated high school in 68, came to ET fall of 68.
Okay. So let's see. When did your brother graduate? Is it just you and your brother?
Well, I have an older sister,
Okay.
but she was already married with children by the time we came to college. But he attended ET the year fall of 69. I came in fall of 68.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood, about your parents, some of your favorite memories of growing up in Mineola?
My childhood was a happy childhood where I was always engaged in activities. In fact, as friends and I talk now, they tell me about how I was always the leader, always the one trying to get us involved in activities, starting little clubs or whatever, as a teenager. So that desire of wanting things to be better must have come at quite a young age.
Do you remember? Can you share with us an early memory of things that needed to be better, that you saw needed some change?
Oh yes, in Mineola the population at that time was probably about 3,000, 2,500 to 3,000, and the black kids didn't have a park. We didn't have a little club or a little place to gather. Other than going to church, I was a Baptist, so going to Baptist Training Union, going to church and going to school. Basically, that was it. And as a teenager, a preteen, I remember organizing a social club where we could meet once a week on Fridays from each person's home, go around and have meetings, organizing our officers and things like that. But through that, we would give little parties, house parties, Christmas Savings Club, do things around the community. So the things that needed to be done, we needed something to do. We needed to learn leadership skills, that we were being taught in school, but to put that in action. And we had no outlet for that. As far as activities after school, we would play in a vacant field. If it was springtime, we would play baseball. The whole community, all the kids after school just gathered this vacant field. And boys and girls played football or baseball. And I have a scar to this day from playing football in one of those fields because it was a barbed wire fence. And as I ran for a touchdown on a rainy day, have this long scar on my leg from doing that. But those were some of the things. Our streets were not good. We just had no social outlet other than the school and the church. So those were some of the things I saw that we could do for ourselves. Okay, let's just start meeting. Let's give our own parties. Let's develop our own clubs, and I can be the president, somebody the secretary, but to develop those skills.
What did you guys call that first club? Do you remember?
The first club was, it was a song by Ramsey Lewis, The In Crowd. We were the In Crowd.
Oh, nice.
We were the In Crowd, a group of girls.
Mm-hmm.
We would call the In Crowd Club.
And
Yes.
that was largely what you guys did at your meetings, coming up with things that the community needed and ways to, and hosting parties.
Yes, yes, hosting parties, and then that way we would get an opportunity to develop social graces because we had no place to go to do that. We were learning in school from the textbooks, how to be sociable. But we had no gatherings for that because you didn't have social gatherings at the church during those days.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Oh,
This is the Baptist thing. Okay.
no. You just go to church and learn the scriptures and all of that kind of thing, but no social graces. So in our homes, though, we could host little teas, use our little dishes and whatever, learn how to put the forks on the correct side. So those kinds of things came out of those meetings because whoever was hosting the meeting had to provide little food and whatever. So we learned to put those things together.
Who were some of your role models in your community that you may have drawn inspiration from?
Primarily the teachers, but there was T.J. White. He was a businessman, black man in the community, who did several things. First of all, he had a job. Now, what it was, I don't remember. But he didn't wear work clothes. Say my father was a laborer, so he didn't come home dirty. He was always clean. And he did taxes for the people in the community, income taxes, and eventually opened a funeral home in Mineola. So he was always encouraging and someone to look up to as an aspiration. Had one of the nicer homes in the community. And then there was Mr. Watson, who was a counselor, Tommy Watson, Mrs. Erlene Wynn, who was the business teacher. And from her particularly, the way she dressed, I emulated her and wanted to be like that. And my music teacher, Willie Sue Stewart, her son attended East Texas as well. But from 3rd to 4th grade, she taught me music through high school.
Well,
Piano,
okay.
Mm-hmm. So those were some of the people. But pretty much in a small town like that, there were a lot of people because it took the whole village, and parents during that day didn't mind you correcting their children. So neighbors, everybody kind of poured into me, and everybody else in the community. When I went to church, there were people from the community, and when I was in school, they were people from the community. So no matter where I was, there were people there pouring into my education and my values.
So you helped desegregate the high school there.
I did.
Can you talk about that experience?
Oh, time out. I'm sorry. Didn't think someone's knocking. Try to get in. You just had to pause our entire interview section here.
We ready?
I waited until I heard her voice stop. I've been standing
That
out
was
there
nice.
for 5 minutes.
There you go. That was nice.
I don't think we paused.
Oh no, I didn't pause. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
okay, that's okay.
We'll have to edit that out.
Yeah. So if you could talk a little bit about that experience of desegregation.
Okay, before full segregation, there was voluntary, like a year in transition for those who wanted to go over in advance. Well, my counselor, Mr. Watson, at the black school, called me in and told me he would like for me to be one of those to go over, because before everybody came, he would like to show that our school had some quality kids, academic, who could compete with the best.
Sure.
And not just going over there to compete, but to represent well before everyone was forced to integrate. Before all of the perhaps expected crisis would show up when everybody showed up on the campus. So I went over. It was me and 4 others.
What year was this?
This was 1966.
Okay.
because I graduated in 68. No, it must have been 65, 66, because I was over a year ahead. And then the last 2 years of my high school, everyone else came. So about 65, 66. When I went over there to Mineola High School, the white school, I was involved in the band because I was in the band at the other school. So I was the only black in the band over there.
What'd you play?
Clarinet.
Clarinet.
Played clarinet. And I remember the year before I was to go, I was in California on a summer vacation. And my mother called me and told me I had to come home because the band had started practicing. And at the black school, we didn't start practicing until school started.
Right.
But over there, they started 2 or 3 weeks, you know, with the marching and everything. So as a consequence, there were about 15 clarinets, and I was in last chair. Didn't know anything about chairing and all of that. You know, you were part of it. At the black band, there might have been 5 or 6 clarinets, you know, but you just sat wherever you wanted to. So anyway, I came home from the summer vacation early and wasn't pleased with that, to have to get up and go to band practice because I didn't know about all of the protocol for over there. But anyway, started marching, and what I did learn was that being the only black, I didn't know how I was going to react to that in the band, just me by myself. Right. But everyone was cordial. I didn't meet any resistance in the band, and we had a wonderful band instructor. I don't know if the kids had been prepped or what, you know, about, well, we have this black young lady coming. I don't know, never heard anything about that. But my experience was normal. Nothing happened. I wasn't called any names. That went well. And I remember the first 6 weeks, what you had to do to move up was memorize music, and you had to play it perfectly to the director, band director. So I could learn music quickly, and so when I played mine, you know, you get so many merits and blah blah blah, and he totals them all up, and then that determines where you're placed, which chair you're in. And when the day came for him to reorganize as to who's going to be first, second, third chair, he did the trumpet section, baritone section, whatever. And when he got to the clarinets, you know, I'm down there at the very end, not knowing what's going to happen. And he moved me up to third chair. And I remember the feeling I had, such a great feeling, because you could hear everybody else like, oh, you know, from last year, she's been moved all the way up there. And that was just like, yes, you know, I can do this. Well, I never had a doubt, but it didn't matter to me that I was last chair because I knew how I played, but I didn't know anything about this positioning. Right. But once I found out, it's like, oh no, I want to be first chair. But the 2 ladies who were ahead of me, oh my God, the harder I worked, the harder they worked. Okay. So I remained third chair.
So it wasn't a color line. It was,
no, it was definitely what you could do. And so that was a good experience. I grew with my skills because that band was far superior to our band, only because I think at the black school, we were such a small school that you did a lot of everything. The football players were in the band. So during football season, they were out there on the field playing football, went to change clothes, came in March during halftime, you know, that kind of thing. Same thing with the spring concert. They were running track, doing all other things. Well, you were just multi-used there. You know, you did a lot of things. And over at the white school, if you were in the band, you were in the band. If you played football, you were on the football field. So you had a chance to focus and just concentrate on one one thing. But overall, my experience there, when it was 5 of us, I made the honor roll, all of that, everything was great. Only one time was I called the N-word. I was walking from the main building to the band hall, which was, the band hall was across the street from where the main building was. And I was alone, because usually when I was with people, nobody said or did anything. But there were 2 boys on the upper floor of the main building with the window raised. And as I passed by, they called me the N-word. And I just glanced up at them and kept walking, But other than that, there were no hateful things done to me. Even when we went on a trip, the first band trip, we had to stay overnight. Now that created some anxiety. We went to Galveston for a UIL competition. And I'm thinking, oh my God, who am I going to be with? Who am I going to be assigned to stay in the room with? Who's going to want to be in the room with me? Those kinds of things. Who's going to want to sit on the bus with me, driving down there? And so that created anxiety. But it all worked out. All of the girls were very nice. Had no problem. None whatsoever. So.
And there weren't additional tensions when the true integration began?
There were some, yes. We didn't have any sit-ins or riots. There were fights. The boys fought. I think they're a territorial thing because when I say the black athletes, we had been winning state championships, going to the playoffs, so we knew we had good players. And the white school had not been a winning team. So we felt automatically our football players, since we had been winning, should be, out there on the team. And most of them were not. And we couldn't understand that. And the coach as well. The coach, our head coach, was made, of course, an assistant, but with no authority. And so that created a lot of tension because that beginning of the year, football is the thing.
Sure.
And so that created tension. So there were a lot of fights among the boys and primarily the athletes, because I think once they're out there on the field and practicing, that tension was created even more with them having to compete for a position. And when they felt they were a lot better than some of the position players and didn't get those positions, that created tension.
When with the voluntary, and we will get to the ETSU time, but this is fascinating, so I hope you don't mind if I stay on a little bit longer. When you were doing the voluntary part of it, were there any other athletes involved with that cluster?
No.
Okay.
No.
These were hand-selected, meaning
Yes.
academically
Yes.
oriented,
Yes.
socially oriented,
Yes.
attractive,
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hand-picked.
Handpicked.
Okay.
5 of us to go over there.
Were your friends from your previous school, I guess there were a lot of questions, maybe there's a lot of curiosity. Can you share with us some of those conversations?
Yes. They, of course, you get, well, why do you want to go over there? I'm not going until I have to go. And because once the 5 of us went over, well, at semester's end, 2 went back. So that left 3 of us. Me, still the only one in the band, and 2 others. But they wanted to know what's it like, how the teachers, how are you treated? And as I could tell them, well, I didn't have any bad experiences. They're nice. People talk to me, when I go to the cafeteria. Because I had 2 other friends, we kind of stayed to ourselves. But others would reach out to us and in the cafeteria, come and sit over here with us and things like that. But primarily they wanted to know what the academics were like. I think more than anything it was questions about how are the teachers? Do they pick on you? Do they call you? Give you the harder questions? And because I think I had such high confidence in myself, and not to sound like I'm bragging, but I think my mother primarily raised me to believe that, from a very early age. She let me know that you are special, you're wonderful, you're great. So I believed that. I believed I was great. And so going over, and with me already being academic and, with study and all of that, I had no complaints, Teachers could, the hardest question they would ask, if I was prepared, it didn't faze me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had no problems with that. But primarily they were concerned with academics, because some of them would be coming over as seniors and they didn't want to jeopardize graduating, if they were not academically prepared. And
do you know of anyone who lost out on graduation primarily because of the transfer?
They had to go to summer school. There were some who had to go to summer school because they didn't pass. And primarily it would be one subject, government. And the lady who taught government was an older Anglo teacher and called us niggers. It was so close. To her, she was saying Negroes, but it was closer to niggers.
Just an old country.
Yes,
lady.
old country white lady. She was a nice lady, but that inflamed a lot of students. And as kids would do, when you upset me, then I'm not going to work for you. I'm not going to perform for you, which meant then they were not going to pass that course.
Was she fair?
She graded us harder. I can say, I think she did, even me, because, when you get your papers back, you compare, what did you get? Let me see your paper. I did that, and particularly the other kids wanted to see my paper. What did you get? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it is still true today, me being an educator. I know that, there are clusters of classes that are just about everybody, it seems, in that class is smart. Mm-hmm. And our class was one of those. It seemed that most of the kids in our class were smart kids. So that kept the competition level up. And even when we went to the white school, most of the kids over there were smart. So it was very competitive. Mm-hmm. So the ones who were competitive, we always looked at each other's paper. And I would see where the teacher didn't mark something on theirs, but marked it off on mine. But what that taught me was I've got to be better. It just made me work harder. Well, okay, if this is the way she is, then I've got to just be better.
Wow.
I've got to study harder, got to be better.
Rather than digging in your heels and pulling back.
No,
that's not going to show.
No. And that seems to have followed me. I've had